following is a GNC podcast production. Welcome to Geek Addicts, a pop culture podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Geek Addicts, the pop culture podcast that we do every week where we talk about a whole bunch of nonsense. I'm Bill, and this is Matt. How you doing, Matt?
I'm good. How are you?
Trying to get through that work thing. I think I got a cold last weekend, and I didn't notice it until, Monday.
Yeah, I don't know. It seemed like something was a little off last time we recorded. I didn't know what it was, but, I mean, that would make sense.
Yeah, it was weird. I felt, awful that night, and then, the next morning, I felt it was even worse, and we ended up going on this, big road trip, and, we went to the Mystic Seaport in Connecticut.
Oh, yeah?
Because there's a little shopping village over there called Mystic Village, which is a bunch of these little old-timey buildings, and they all have little shops in them.
Mm-hmm.
And we just kind of went and walked around there. There was this big anime manga store that they had that was super hyped up, and we got there, and honestly, it was a little underwhelming. I think it's just because me and Alex are such seasoned weebs at this point that we went in and we're like, oh, it's more of the same.
Yeah. That happens a lot.
I feel like for a first-time collector going in there would be the greatest thing ever, but seasoned veterans of this hobby probably were kind of yeah, there's some cool stuff, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I got some Spy Family shot glasses. That was my purchase from there.
Oh yeah, those are cool. So which one? You got what was it? Bond, what was that?
I don't know. That was weird. It was Lloyd, Bond, Yor, and Anya, I believe.
Nice. There you go.
Yep.
So I was messing around online today, and I saw that the last of the big three is going to be getting a live action movie. Apparently, there is a Naruto live action movie right now. The director from that Shang-Chi movie is apparently directing it. So I haven't seen it, but I've heard a lot of good things about that movie. So, I mean, hopefully that means good things.
I hope so. The whole thing with live action is it'll either be good or it won't. There's never mid. It seems to be with these things.
That's true. But I mean, I don't know. My hopes have been slightly elevated as of late on account of One Piece and Yu Yu Hakusho both doing well. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting because I believe the first episode of the live action Last Airbender just came out too.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, have I heard mixed things. So
yeah, I'm probably gonna end up trying to watch that maybe at some point this weekend with all my kids with my mom.
The general consensus I've heard is that it's not as. Keep hearing that. I don't know what it is.
It's on your end, I'm pretty sure.
Is it? I have an ear out so I can hear because I have no idea. But yeah, the general consensus I've heard is that it's not as bad as people say, but it's also not good.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could be worse. It could be Shyamalan's.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, that is me. I'm going to go see what that is real quick.
All right.
I'm actually going to pause this real quick. Yeah, so sorry about that. I had a carbon monoxide detector. The battery died and it wouldn't stop. So great. I'll have to look into that tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Fun stuff.
Yeah. Either that or there's carbon monoxide slowly going into the room and that'll kill me eventually. You never know.
Well, if you start nodding out in the recording, I'll find a way to get in touch with Alex and I'll let her know.
Yeah. Yep. That's reassuring. I'm joking, everybody. But yeah, where were we?
I'm not even sure. I think we were talking about live action.
Oh yeah, I was gonna make a joke about how like not every live action adaptation can be a gem like the Netflix one.
Yeah, no kidding.
For all the wrong reasons. Yeah, but who knows how that'll turn out. I mean, Naruto is such a polarizing series too. Like you either like it or don't.
Yeah, well, see, I don't know. I feel like if you cut out all the bullshit with Naruto, like how One Piece is getting that treatment right now with the One Piece. Like if we got like the Naruto or Naruto Kai or whatever the fuck you want to call it, like I don't know. I feel like it would translate really well, and I think it would catch a lot more people. I think the thing that was the major turnoff for Naruto was when it was airing week to week, and we would just get 6 months of filler in between, like in the middle of a really major arc. Like that was the thing that was the major turnoff for a lot of people.
Yeah, Naruto was that was a show. I watched the whole thing once and never again.
Yeah. I mean, I'll rewatch it, but I don't bother with the filler crap.
Well, yeah,
Naruto doesn't have very good filler.
I won't do the full 500 episodes of Shippuden ever again.
Oh God, no! I didn't even do it the first time.
I did because I had to know. I had to get the authentic experience.
I'll read the manga or play Ninja Storm.
I've heard that's a lot of people's full extent of the Naruto canon, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I've heard a lot of people say that that's like one of the best ways to experience the story without having to go through the whole filler skip list. So
that's fair. Yeah, nothing else too major though. Still waiting on new releases and everything.
Mm-hmm. My in-laws were in town this past week. They came down from Maine, and they brought us this local like blueberry wine stuff that they had like their local liquor store. This shit is so good, dude. It's like I'm not a wine person. I don't generally like wine, but the shit they have locally up there is just so good.
Yeah, not a big wine guy myself either. I mean, in terms of like liquor, I'm really only gin and tonic kind of guy. Well, gin mostly kind of guy.
I was big into my I was a little bit younger and drank a little bit more often. I was usually rum.
See, I had a bad experience with rum and I can't drink it anymore.
That's kind of how I feel about like vodka. Like I'll drink it in moderation, but I can't get drunk off of vodka anymore. It just these bad times.
Brings back the memories.
Exactly, or the lack thereof.
There's always that one drinking incident that just ruins something for you. Me, it was rum. Like just all those things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
Happens to the best of us though.
Yeah. No, everyone has their first hangover and it's always bad.
Yeah, for real.
I mean, I did a podcast hungover this week with the most recent 3DO at the time of this recording. We recorded it right after the day after the Daytona 500 and I was fucked the entire day.
I can imagine.
And we talked about mahjong for like an hour. It was great.
At least it was a relaxing topic. Like if you had to research it hungover, at least it wouldn't be like, a lot of flashing lights and noises and shit.
Trust me, we had Aaron from Superpod Saga joined us for that one, and shout out to Aaron. But anytime he joins anything, it becomes chaos like real quick.
Oh yeah,
yeah, he's a good guy. But my God, like we were talking about Hamburger Helper at one point, and I'm like, where is this even going anymore?
Oh jeez.
Check out the most recent episode of the 3DO experience if you'd like to know more. Yeah, but I guess going on to our topic now. This one kind of last minute, but I kind of like the idea of it because we're trying to branch out and not do so many anime and like manga and just generally non-gaming focused episodes because we're supposed to be kind of an all-around podcast. We haven't really covered a ton of gaming yet.
Yeah, I think we did the Final Fantasy one. I think that was our second episode, and then we did the Dragon Ball games episode. I think that's all we've done so far.
We did RPGs too.
Yeah, we did the RPGs, and I think we talked a little bit about the Scott Pilgrim game, but aside
That's
from
true.
that,
Yeah, not a whole lot, and I'd like to at least talk about it every now and then. Hi, Mr. Carr.
yeah. No,
So
I definitely agree. I mean, we got our few series that we have continually, but I would like to touch on video games more often.
yeah, and I thought a fun episode to do would be. It's funny because I've talked about this particular handheld on the main show GNC a couple of times, but this was one that me and Matt actually grew up with, so I figured it would be a good one to start with, and that's actually the Game Boy Advance.
Ooh, you got the red SP.
The red SP. It's actually not the best SP because it's a front lit version, so the screen's not amazing. But I've had this since God. What year did this thing come out?
And it's the same.
2002.
Oh wow! I think that's the same one that the most recent one that I had. Although I let my little brother borrow it when he gave it back, it didn't work anymore. So, and I haven't had the opportunity to replace it yet. So all my GBA gaming has been done on the DS Lite.
Which, to be fair, is probably the best way to play GBA games these days. Unless you have a micro, but even then, the micro I wouldn't even say is the best, just because it's so tiny and it can't play Game Boy Color games.
I don't know. I still would prefer the SP though. Like when it comes to GBA or Game Boy in general, the SP is where it's at. Specifically, I don't personally like the later ones because I like being able to turn the backlight off if I'm in a brightly lit area.
You could turn it off with the later ones. The later ones, basically, it wasn't a front lit screen; it was a true backlit screen.
Mm-hmm.
And they generally just had better screens. Like this one in particular gets very washed out at times. But fun fact about this handheld, this version too, it was the first one that had a rechargeable battery.
Yeah, which was a serious game changer growing up.
And these things would never die. Like in terms of so fun little experiment here. This hasn't been charged in about 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And because if I'm going to play GBA, I'm probably going to use my DS Lite or Game Boy player. So let's see here. Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how these things last so long, but they just do.
It's a solid piece of technology. They just don't make stuff like that anymore.
No, I mean battery life just isn't as important anymore because you can just recharge everything. So people are kind of yeah. And nobody leaves their house anymore to go play video games. Everyone always is exclusively out and about.
But see, that's the funny thing is a few years ago, I had this little group of friends that we would all hang out, and a lot of times, we're in our early to mid 20s, so we'd go out and we pretty much just we take it in turns going into each other's houses, and we'd just be smoking pot and playing Game Boy and whoever's car we were at that point in time, and that was just our continuous cycle all the time.
You know the one thing about the SP that always bothered me though?
What's that?
It doesn't have an headphone jack.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That
Wait,
always
did the original GBA have that?
It did, and the micro has one.
Wow.
For whatever reason, the SP just doesn't. There was an adapter you could buy that you could plug into one of the little slots up there that would give it a headphone jack, but so weird that they didn't have a headphone jack.
That's so bizarre.
See, Nintendo was just ahead of the trend getting rid of the headphone jack.
I just don't understand that because didn't all the other systems that came after it, all the other handhelds, the DSs and all, there's just one weird hiccup that for some reason for that one they didn't.
I don't know. It just doesn't have a headphone jack for whatever reason.
That's strange.
Must have been a space saving measure, I guess, because it is kind of compact, but I feel like they could have made that work.
If the micro had it, then there's really no excuse.
Yeah, it was probably just it had to have been a design oversight. But I always remember you'd be on that's the one thing that sucks about this thing is you can't get that awesome stereo sound because it doesn't have a headphone jack.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't tell you the last time I wore headphones playing a handheld game though.
I do it every now and then depending on the game because sometimes I really like to enjoy that music.
That's fair.
Like if I'm playing like Vita sometimes, like say if I'm playing like Persona 4 Dancing All Night, and I really want to get that music, like the musical like feeling of it, I'll put the headphones in because you can hear it right in your ear, and it changes the experience, I'd say.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Another one that was big was Tetris Effect, that's like the Tetris game that's more of a visual and audio experience than an actual Tetris.
Okay.
But I used headphones when I played that on both PS5 and Switch, just to get the experience out. Because my God, that game is just like a visual like treat in every way.
In what way?
Like when you move the Tetris blocks, like different sounds will play, and like there's like songs in the background that will progress as you like drop like Tetris pieces in and make Tetrises. Like and turning the blocks and moving them causes the backgrounds to change. It is a wild game to play.
Huh. I couldn't tell you the last time I touched a Tetris game, so I don't know. I haven't caught up with all these different variations.
That one's more of an experience than anything. It is on Switch, so if you ever see it on sale, I'd recommend picking it up just to experience it.
Fair enough. It's always good to have just like a simple game to just jump in and just play a couple levels of.
So for this particular episode, I figured we'd jump back and forth talking about games, but for me in particular, I thought it'd be fun. I have my big tote here of GBA games. I thought it would be fun. Yeah, it's called the years of poor decision making and spending habits. I thought it'd be fun if I just would grab one randomly and talk about whatever I get. So, you want me to go first, or should you go first?
Yeah, balls in your court.
Okay, so let's see what I get. Okay. So I got Banjo-Kazooie Grunty's Revenge.
Oh, I didn't know they made a Banjo-Kazooie game on the GBA.
Rare made a bunch of games on GBA, surprisingly. Like, because Microsoft didn't have a handheld at the time, they kind of just gave Rare the okay to still make stuff for the Game Boy Advance, and they made a couple games, and one of them was that. And it's like a weird sequel to Banjo-Kazooie 1, where like Grunty comes back as like this like robotic like ghost. It's bizarre. Fun enough game though. It's like an isometric platformer.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's not like any world class art or anything, but for what it is, it's not bad.
Solid.
So what's a game that you remember fondly? Or go on.
I was just gonna ask, like, if you've played it a lot or just kind of tested it out, or.
I've played it. I put a couple hours into it. I haven't finished it yet, just because my gaming OCD is so all over the place, and it is a collectathon. So there's a lot to find.
Yeah,
it's fine. It's fine though for what it is.
So for one of the ones that I actually broke it out earlier this week, just to refresh my memory on it, because it's been a long time. But Beyblade V-Force was a game that I played a lot back in the day, and god damn it, this game is balls hard. Like, it
gets there as it goes. I remember I had this one too.
Like I wasn't even halfway through the game. I just kind of picked up wherever my save file left off. I think it was in, like the third like chapter or whatever. And I was getting like visibly frustrated with some of these levels.
It's basically just Marble Madness, but like with Beyblades.
Yeah, and it was like the way that you got to kind of slide through some of these platforms, and like the way that the different tilts and stuff, and you just catch another Beyblade at the wrong angle and you shoot off the side. It can get incredibly frustrating very fast.
You know what my favorite part of this game is, though, still to this day?
What's that?
The fact that the music theme from V-Force plays throughout the game.
Like the whole time, pretty much. Like as soon as you go into it.
It's like this horribly bit crushed version of it that has the vocals and everything, but it sounds so like distorted.
For real. But when I was a kid, I fucking loved it. Like,
well, the Beyblade V-Force theme is surprisingly catchy. Like, it's very simple, but like you gotta nod your head to it, and they just play it like constantly throughout this game.
Well, that's how a lot of those like super kid focused, toy selling animes from back then, especially like the dub versions. They went real hard with those kinds of wicked, catchy, kid-friendly music stuff.
Yeah, no, they really did. Yeah, that one was fun. Did you ever play the sequel?
I don't think so. I don't know if it was the same game or not, but
It was.
I think I played the PlayStation.
Oh, that one's not. That's not a great game.
No, I
No,
don't remember much of it. It just
it's
I remember
that one's
having
more
it.
of that one's more of an arena battler.
Okay.
It's very not great. The second one on Game Boy Advance was G Revolution, and it was basically the same thing, just more of the Marble Madness stuff.
Okay.
It also had the theme playing, but they took away the lyrics, and it wasn't nearly as fun.
It's about right. But no, it was definitely a good game. I'm probably gonna go back to it and try to finish it, but
it's addicting. Like that is an addicting game.
It really is. Like I ended up playing it a lot more than I thought I was going to this week.
All right, so let's dig into the pile. Let's see what we get this time. Oh, another rare game, Donkey Kong Country.
Oh.
It's a port of the Super Nintendo game, and it's pretty good. Not much else to say. They add some quality of life improvements, like they add more story elements, and then they let you save wherever you want now. The music's not as great, but I mean, for GBA standards, it still sounds pretty good.
I gotcha.
It's Donkey Kong Country, just with a little more content.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that one was cheating, so I'm gonna just grab another one for something more interesting. Pokemon Sapphire.
Oh, nice.
Another classic. The good old blue cartridge and everything. This is my original copy too, from like 2002, I think, when this game came out, or whenever it was. 2001 maybe.
Did it come out that early? Because I got my copy, I think 2004. My copy of Ruby.
I don't know if it'd be 2004, just because that's when the DS came. Let me see here.
I'm not sure. I mean, they were also still making GBA games for a while into the DS's life cycle.
Yeah, I'm curious now.
I want to say it was 2004, but I could be mistaken. It could have been 2003, and I just got my copy late.
No, it was 2002.
Oh, okay.
Emerald came out in 2003, I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah, so 2002. So this is my original copy of Sapphire from 2002.
Mm-hmm.
I played the hell out of this one back in the day. Like, this was the first Pokemon game I really owned.
Yeah, that was the out of those three games, that was the one I had I think the least amount of experience with. Because Ruby was the one I ended up with. That was my first Gen 3 game, and that one I still have that cartridge, and I played the hell out of that one. And
you know why I got Sapphire over Ruby?
Why is that?
Ruby was sold out. Sapphire they had it's like how there's always the one that's like super sold out. Nobody wanted the damn fish.
Well, it's kind of funny though, because Kyogre just destroys Groudon, even though I do like Groudon more. But
yeah, that's
it's a solid one though. It's I think Gen 3 is definitely underrated.
Yeah, it's getting more appreciation now, especially with like Alpha Ruby and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire.
Mm-hmm. I should get the Sapphire one though, because I really have so little experience with that particular version of Gen 3, because it's generally been Ruby or Emerald that I've played. I think I've played Sapphire through once.
I mean, to be fair, I've played Sapphire version once, and then it's always been Emerald ever since then, because Emerald's just better generally.
Yeah, it's the more complete version. It's like playing Platinum over Pearl or Diamond, so it makes sense.
I mean, other than Wallace being the champion, which is incredibly pathetic and easy to win, Emerald just is basically better in every way.
Yeah, that was always a weird thing that I didn't understand.
Well, it's because they wanted to make Steven Stone a super boss that you could find later, which is effective. It's just it made the championship fight so pathetic, because if you picked a Trico, you could basically one-shot him.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that actually does become a plot point too in the manga version. So Might as well keep going with the Pokemon thing, because another GBA game that I played a lot of when I was a kid was the Red Rescue Team Pokemon.
Mystery Dungeon.
Yep.
That
was the first of the Mystery Dungeon games, and it was definitely a game changer.
That was a weird one because that released they did the double release the same way they did regular Pokemon, but the way they did it that was bizarre was like the red one was on GBA, and then the blue version was on DS, so you had to like two different consoles with the same game.
And I think that was part of their way of kind of playing around with the idea of like you could have both games in the DS, and then like you could, because the way that the multiplayer worked in those games, I think it's still the way it works now, is like you can't actually play together, but if you wipe on a dungeon, you can have a friend come and save you from the dungeon, and then you don't lose anything, or you can continue from where you left off or something like that. And because one version was Game Boy, one version was DS, you could have them both on the same console, and then you could just save yourself.
Yeah, it was an interesting idea. It was one of the first games, I believe, that used the DS, like the GBA slot on the DS for like an actual in-game effect. Which is funny because it was interesting because like they would later like remove the Game Boy Advance slot, and that would just change everything.
Yeah, for sure. But it was definitely an interesting idea, and I mean they've taken it pretty far at this point. But at the time, it was just so unique and interesting, and like the amount of post-game content in that game was outrageous. There was so much to do.
The personality it gave all the Pokemon.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like and the whole aspect of the personality test at the beginning. Like that determines what Pokemon you get.
I cheated on that so much.
Yeah, everybody does eventually. I usually like to go with just whatever. I think it gave me Cubone the first time I played it.
I forget what I got. I remember I got something that was dumb, and I was like, nope, I refuse. So I just I looked up how to get a Trico, and then that was what I did.
I think I ultimately ended up doing that, but for Charmander. Although,
and I'll tell you though, like trying to get like the Pokemon you want in the first game is actually a lot harder than you'd think, because it's like it's still kind of random. Like you have to like just kind of guess it until like you get through.
And the new ones, like it's like you do the personality test, and it's like, hey, you got this. Do you want that? And then if you say no, it'll give you the list, and you can say, all right, just pick which one you want. They didn't do that in the original. You had to go through the whole test over again and hope you got the right answers.
Yeah, nowadays they're like, all right, you ingrateful shits, here's your list.
Yep, pretty much.
The DS games, I remember like you would just like poke the screen and it would just give you something randomly. And I remember that being kind of cool, but at the same time be like, oh, you can't even cheese it anymore. You just have to keep like randomizing it until you get it right.
Did you out of curiosity, did you ever see the pilot episode of the series they tried to do for this?
I remember it. Like I remember seeing it, but it's like it was years ago, and it's like extremely vague.
Yeah, I remember bits and pieces of it, but I remember like I caught it on TV a few times before they stopped airing it. And I was really hoping it was going to take off because it seemed like such a cool idea for a series, but it just never went anywhere.
I'm honestly surprised it didn't go anywhere. I figured that would have like, because people love the Pokemon. I figured they would have eaten that up.
Yeah, especially since the episode in the original anime where like all the Pokemon get separated from their trainers and they're all like just kind of having to figure shit out on their own, and you get like the subtitles of them talking to each other and stuff. Like that was one of the most popular episodes back then, so you'd think something like that would have worked, but whatever.
You would think. But people's attention, you know what it probably was too? It probably aired at some really weird time and no one caught it.
That's probably, you know what? I think it might have been during the summer, so everybody was outside playing anyway.
Yeah. Speaking of that, do you remember when like Nickelodeon used to do that like during the summer? They do like that national like day of play, and they just like cut off the airing for an entire day.
Yeah.
It would literally be go outside.
Really annoyed child me.
Well, they didn't think the fact that like all it really did was just make kids go over to like Cartoon Network or something.
Yeah, they go to Cartoon Network, or they'd pop out their VHSs, or just decide to video game day.
Yeah, it was a great intention. Unfortunately, kids are kids. So.
Yeah, kids will be like, "Well, I'm just gonna find a way around it."
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah, so I guess going in now to the bucket again. Ooh, we got Frogger Advance. The Great
Frogger.
Quest. The Great Quest. This game's bad.
Is
Like,
it?
so there is a bunch of Frogger games on the GBA. Most of them are actually really good. This one, no. This one is really bad. This is a adaptation of the PS2 game Frogger: The Great Quest, which was a 3D platformer that's just atrocious in every way. So rather than making a traditional Frogger game like you'd expect, like grid-based kind of hop and bop kind of game, they made this like a side-scrolling 2D platformer.
Huh.
That's
interesting.
It's bad. Like it's generally one of the worst games you'll probably ever play on GBA.
That's a pretty low bar.
That being said, though, the other Frogger games are pretty good because they're actually traditional hop and bop Frogger games.
Fair enough. I mean, that's what I think of when I think Frogger. So when you said side scrolling, it just seems wrong to me.
If you look at screenshots of it, it just looks wrong in every way.
Not bad.
Yeah.
So another one that I pulled out and tried this week was Naruto Ninja Council, the first one.
Are those RPGs or
side-scrolling beat 'em ups?
Side-scrolling beat 'em ups.
It's kind of similar to Advance Adventure, but a more fast-paced. I'd say it's a little bit more Sonic-y than Advance Adventure-y.
Okay.
Like it's honestly a lot faster paced than you would think it is, but I mean it works really well for what it is. It's incredibly simple. It works for what it is. You only get to play as like 3 characters. I think it's just Naruto, Sasuke, and Kakashi. I mean, the later entries in that series were definitely better, but I enjoyed the game a lot as a kid when Naruto was first coming out. I was first getting into it.
Yeah, I remember because that was like a very different time for anime too, and Naruto was kind of this weird one that just kind of came out of nowhere. God. I've seen those every now and then. I was tempted to pick them up. I just never do.
They're not bad games. I never played the second one, but I played the first one and the third one. The third one was for DS.
Okay.
And that one went through the Sasuke retrieval arc. This first one, I don't even know how far this one went. I don't remember it. I know I beat it multiple times as a kid. I cannot for the life of me remember where it caps off. I don't even know if it goes into the Chunin exam.
God, remember the days when like licensed games actually had effort put into them?
Yeah, right.
God, that was a different time.
No kidding.
So into the bucket of mysteries. Oh, gee. Dragon Ball Z Taiketsu.
Hey, I was gonna bring that one up next.
All right, so I'll put that aside then, and I'll grab another one.
No, that's fine. We can talk about it. It's not a big deal.
I want variety in this if you were going to talk about it anyways. Okay, here we got Spyro Attack of the Rhinox. Or Rhinots.
Huh.
So did you ever play any of the Spyros on GBA?
You know, now that you mention it, I think I did play one of them. I don't remember which one, though.
So there was Season of Ice and Season of Flame, which were the first two.
It might have been one of those. I'm not sure.
And then they did Attack of the Rhinots. The Spyro games on GBA were pretty good. They made them like isometric kind of platformers, and they played basically like a more basic version of the PlayStation games. I remember Attack of the Rhinots because that one like went like full on Metroidvania, where like it was super exploratory and you had to like find stuff like without really any guidance. They were good. They were definitely better than like the crap he was getting on like PS2 and GameCube at the time.
Yeah.
Because my God, Spyro had a rough go after Insomniac left.
Yeah, well, I mean, I played one or two of the PS2 games. I didn't hate them.
Were you playing like the original or the Legend of Spyro games?
The original, I think.
I'm guessing it was probably a Hero's Tale.
Maybe.
I'd
have to look at the titles to remember.
The other one was Enter the Dragonfly.
That might have been that one.
Oh, that one's infamously bad.
Is it? Oh, maybe
Yeah,
it was just my child brain not caring.
Maybe.
Just, oh, look, Spyro. I like Spyro.
Maybe if you play it now, you'll notice because that's one where you can beat it in 5 minutes if you trigger a glitch on the opening cutscene.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah, the GBA games though were all pretty good, other than like Spyro Orange, but that game is a party game that's bad.
That's fair.
So Taiketsu now.
Yeah, Taiketsu. That is just a bad fighter. But
Like,
once again, my child brain just said, "Ooh, Dragon Ball," and I just didn't give a shit, so I played it anyway. And
I love the fact that like it was the same studio that did Legacy of Goku games.
I know I don't understand how a studio that can make like such good games like that. I mean, they also did make the first Legacy of Goku, so I mean, I can't say I'm too surprised, but
And GT transformations.
yes, which I saw a list. It was like one of those like article list things. It was like top 5 hardest Dragon Ball games, which Dragon Power wasn't on the list, so I already know they didn't know what they were talking about. But GT Transformations was on that list. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, Child Me was able to beat it, so it couldn't have been that bad.
That one's not even hard. It's just boring as fuck.
Yeah, it's just I wanted so much more out of that one, but whatever. But yeah, Taiketsu is just a really bad fighter. You couldn't even really do combos. It's pretty much the only thing you could manage is a sweep kick, and that was about it.
It's such a boring, repetitive game, and you're just like, yeah, this is bad.
And there's no story to it or anything. No. It's just boring as fuck.
You want a real fighter, play Supersonic Warriors, I think it is, or
yes, I have that one, and that one is definitely far more comparable.
Yes. Oh, Taiketsu, that's a gem right there.
Yeah.
Let's see, what do I got next? Oh boy, it's the Kim Possible game on GBA. It's not a bad platformer, but that's really all I have to say about it.
They used to make a lot of those Kim Possible games and stuff back in the day. Like shit like that. And like what were some of the other ones they made? Like Totally Spies and shit.
I never played that one. I remember the Kim Possible ones though, because they were all super cheap.
Well, I never played them. I just saw them all over the place. There's always a bunch of them.
When you're a collector starting out and you don't have a lot of money, you see that GBA bargain bin, you just go like,
yep, you just grab a handful and say, let's see what I got this time.
Yeah. I ended up with all the Kim Possible games, so we might see another one, but they're not bad. They're actually surprisingly decent side scrollers.
That's fair.
Back when companies actually cared.
Yeah, no kidding.
What's another game?
Yu-Gi-Oh! Sacred Cards.
That's Sacred Cards. That is a good game. It's so easy though.
Well, I mean, once you get to the latter half of the game, yes, it's extremely easy. But at the beginning, when you have that limit on what you can have for your cards, and like, they don't do a very good job of explaining what you need to do for certain things. Like when I was playing through it the first time, and you had to fight Mako Tsunami, but it didn't tell you that you needed to fight every single other duelist in the game before you could face him. It never told you that. So you're just running around in circles challenging everybody, which is ultimately what they wanted you to do. But it was also really hard to remember who you fought and who you hadn't.
Yeah. See, I love this game too, because like it's one of the rare like Yu-Gi-Oh games that actually plays like an RPG, where you actually walk around the world map and everything. The reason I remember this one in particular, though, was like they changed the plot of the Battle City arc, where instead of playing as Yugi, you play as a self-insert that kind of inserts himself into this entire plot.
He's pretty much Red, but in the Yu-Gi-Oh world.
Yeah, and you go through the entire thing too, because it goes all the way up to like the final battle with Merrick.
Yeah, and every single important duel, it's you against whoever the person who the good guys were fighting at the time. So
Yugi doesn't do much in this game.
No, until you whoop his ass and take. Wait, did he even have? No, we win Slifer from the mime guys. He never even gets Slifer.
Yeah, you're basically just taking Yugi's place in this in the arc.
Yeah, you're pretty much relegating him to a side character.
Did you ever play the sequel?
Was that the
Chef of Destruction?
Yeah, that game sucks.
It's they like took the criticism of Sacred Cards being too easy, and they just jacked up the difficulty to fucking 11.
Yeah, it was just way too much. And when I first got it and started playing it, I was all excited. But as soon as I started it too, I was like, oh my god, it is just like the first one. And then I realized that your life points don't go back after you finish a duel.
Then they changed all the rules, and nothing makes sense anymore.
No, it was just really confusing. I mean, see, that was the thing that I liked about Sacred Cards. Well, I mean, yeah, there were some exceptions because there was limitations with what they could do with it, but for the most part, the game was just the game.
Yeah,
which is exactly why I wanted to play it in the first place.
You know what the saddest part too is it has an original story that like kind of ignores the events of Waking the Dragons, which depending on who you ask might actually be for the better.
That's fair.
And it makes its own story where like Pegasus goes rogue, basically.
That's pretty funny.
It's actually a better story, arguably, than Waking the Dragons, but unfortunately, you have to play the awful game attached to it.
That's fair. I actually didn't mind Waking the Dragons. It wasn't my favorite. It certainly wasn't a fantastic arc, but it had some fun stuff in it.
It had decent moments. I wasn't a fan of Emo Pharaoh though for a while there.
Yeah, well, that happens.
Yeah, that was a weird arc. Also, Joey was just important in that arc for no reason.
Yeah, he kicked a lot of ass in that arc.
And then they completely just wiped it all away. Because that arc was all filler.
Yep. It was fun filler though, and fucking what's that card? The Seal of Orichalcos.
Oh yeah, the Seal of Orichalcos. You know what that entire arc was? It was just to sell. Card. It was just to sell fucking toys, so they could sell these new evil dual discs and more booster packs with cards that you couldn't even use in tournaments.
I mean, to be fair, that's kind of what the entire anime is for in the first place.
Yeah, I know. I know. You know what pissed me off about that arc? Just to get off topic.
Was that
the fucking god cards get stolen in the first fucking episode? I was like, really?
Well, I mean, it makes sense, like like in a narrative sense, because it went through the whole thing about these are the most powerful cards ever, and if you have all three, you're basically unstoppable. So they had to find a way to kind of bring them back down.
I just wish they did it better than that. Like, yeah, could have like maybe sealed them or somehow made it so they don't work anymore. But no, let's just have Weevil and Rex mug Yugi's grandfather, and it's like okay, it's like the two most pathetic like duelists mug an old man. It's like, yeah,
all right. That old man gets mugged a lot.
Yeah, and his exact words were, "Oh no, not again."
I will say though, you can say what you want about Waking the Dragons, but we got like the best abridged arc out of it. So
I'm sure abridged made it fun.
Yeah.
All right, into the bucket again. Duke Nukem Advance.
Duke Nukem.
It's like the best way to describe Duke Nukem Advance is imagine a Duke Nukem game if it was more like a Doom. Like a first-person shooter that's like Doom styled. It's not bad. It's a very much this was filler while they were waiting for Forever to come out. It's worth playing though. Other than the fact that the music doesn't play when you're in gameplay, it only plays in the pause screen for some reason.
Huh. That's odd.
It must have been because the game actually uses full 3D like areas, so it was probably just pushing way too much on the system.
Yeah.
Other than that, there's not much to say. It's Duke Nukem on GBA.
Fair enough. I'm trying to think. Yu Yu Hakusho Tournament Tactics, which we've talked about a little bit before.
Yeah, my copy that got stolen in the mail and I never got it.
Yeah. No, it's a solid tactics game. It's 5-man teams. You just fight a bunch of random demons from the series. You're going through the Dark Tournament arc. But they add like a bunch of extra levels and stuff just to keep it, pad it out a bit. But
yeah, no, I'm interested in finally playing it. Whenever I get a copy, I just have to order another one.
Yeah, but yeah, it's definitely worth playing. It's a fun game.
we might get some if I dig them out, but there is a surprisingly large amount of tactical games on the GBA based off of random franchises.
Yeah, I need to start playing more tactical. I mean, I have the 2 Final Fantasy Tactics games on my Vita, which I would like to start playing at some point. But I actually picked up Final Fantasy 2, picked that back up this past week, and tried to fiddled around with it until I figured out where I had left off. Because when I got Crisis Core, I put it down, and then I beat Crisis Core and almost immediately started Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I just beat the base game on that like last week. So I got to a point now where I was like, okay, I should probably go back to Final Fantasy 2. And then I turned it on and I was like, shit, I have no idea what I was doing.
Yep. The classic RPG curse.
Yeah. That's why I try to stick to one game at a time, but it doesn't always work.
Yeah. I know that feeling. So let's see. Pokemon Leaf Green.
Hey, solid.
One of the first remakes in the series and arguably one of the best.
Yes, for sure.
I mean, Heart Gold, Soul Silver probably are still the best remakes of all time, but Fire Red, Leaf Green were really good. It's a lot of people's first experience with Gen 1.
Yeah, and it was a way to bring a lot of the Gen 1 Pokemon that weren't available in Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald. Like, you couldn't get any of like the first gen starters otherwise, which was a big deal. I don't even remember. Could you get the second gen starters?
No, you had to play Coliseum.
That's so stupid.
To play fucking Coliseum. Yeah, I mean, Leaf Green in particular, I played the hell out of. Like, I still remember, like, because basically it's a better looking version of Gen 1 that uses the Gen 3 engine, which is still to this day, I believe, the best game engine they ever made for a Pokemon game.
Yeah, it's definitely solid. I never had any issues with it.
It's so quick. Like, that's like the big thing about it.
And I love the it was like all the like updated sound effects and music and stuff for it. Like, it just worked really well for it. And it's honestly like one thing I've noticed going through old GBA games, some games are a lot prettier than others.
Yeah, there was a few that weren't the best looking games.
Yeah, and the Pokemon GBA games were definitely on the prettier side.
Yeah. Great soundtracks too. Love the soundtracks.
Absolutely. The next is a game that's not so pretty. Is Lord of the Rings: Two Towers.
Oh, okay.
It's a decent action RPG. It's not, overly impressive in any particular way, but they really went out of their way to try and make it look like the movies. There was even like some really garbled and compressed cutscenes for the movies, because this would have been like right when the movies were coming out, and God, it just looked bad.
It reminds me of those GBA video cartridges, like where you could watch fucking like Shrek on a GBA and it looks terrible.
For real. There was no way they were gonna fit fucking Lord of the Rings on one of those.
that would be something if they did.
For real. But yeah, it's a decent game, but it's not impressive visually at all.
No, I can imagine. Let's see here. Oh, nice. Final Fantasy VI Advance.
Cool.
It's a port of 6. Pretty good port overall. Music's not as great. Graphics are a little bit blown up to fit on the screen. Does add some bonus content, but I guess nowadays with the pixel remasters, there's no real reason to play Advance. But like back in the day, this was a pretty good option.
I mean, it's still not a bad choice. Sometimes it's just nice to play the old cartridge games,
Yeah. I mean, for me, if I'm going to play 6, I still prefer to play like the original like Final Fantasy 3 cartridge on Super Nintendo, just because I love the Ted Woosley translation. But the 6 on GBA is a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Just finding a copy of these like that are legit nowadays is a pain.
Mm-hmm. So the next one, I never really like played. My uncle had a copy of it, and I did play it, but I would only play around on his completed file, and that's Link to the Past.
Link to the Past,
Which is
I
solid.
noticed it right there.
Yeah, it's a solid game. That's another one of the ones that was on the prettier side for the GBA.
The only thing I hated about it was whenever Link swung the sword, he would make that like scraw sound, which would just get so annoying after a while.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like what
But,
they didn't need to edit everything.
But it was like one of those things where it honestly surprised me with how many different like weapons and items and stuff that you could use. Because like I said, if I was messing around in a completed file, so I had everything available to me. And that's what I definitely have to go through and actually play it. I have it on my 3DS, and I also have it on the Super Nintendo emulator of my Switch.
Nice.
So at some point, I'm definitely gonna go and actually play it through from the beginning. I've been so preoccupied with other stuff. I'll get to it eventually, but it's on my list. It's a priority game.
It's a great Zelda. It also, the GBA version comes with the original Four Swords, which was a fun little side game that you could play.
Mm-hmm.
Which was like, it was like a 4-player co-op Zelda where you'd have like 4 different links and you'd have to do puzzles. They later expanded it with the GameCube game Four Swords Adventures, which is really a full-on experience if you can get it properly set up.
That's cool.
Yeah, so let's see. Donkey Kong Country 3 is pretty much the same thing as Donkey Kong Country 1, so I'll skip that. Here's a fun one. Herb Sims in the City.
Oh, God.
Not going to lie, this is a fucking great game. Although I prefer the DS version, personally.
It's one of the only Sims games I ever played, but I played it on Xbox.
So, completely different game.
Yeah, that's my understanding of it.
This is like an RPG.
Huh.
Like an adventure RPG kind of game where like you play in like, you have to like do missions and like you go through like this like city and like you have to like talk to people and like solve their problems. It's a surprisingly fun game that I can speedrun.
It's always fun to speedrun games.
I played that game because that was one of the DS launch titles, and I played the hell out of it back in the day.
Solid. Well, speaking of speedrun games, I might as well bring up the main one that I do, Legacy of Goku 1.
Legacy of Goku.
Yeah.
The most... That series is great, but that first game is so trash, but in like the best way.
It is. The fucking wolves, man. The wolves will get you. The wolves will get you.
And the final fight... the final battle's with Vegeta, right?
Frieza.
Frieza, that's right.
Yeah.
You can fight... for the entire final fight with Frieza is literally just run up, punch, hide, recharge, run up, punch, hide, recharge.
The solar flare is your friend. That's one thing I've learned. I never really fucked with it when I was a kid, but like as I got older and like went back to play it again, I realized that the solar flare just breaks the game. You don't need anything else. You don't need key blast. You don't need nothing. Just solar flare. That's all you need.
Yeah, that's the disappointing thing about that game to me is like there was so much potential, like especially because it covers my favorite part of the Dragon Ball saga, which is like the early stuff. Because Legacy of Goku 2 and Boo's Fury are just better games in like every way.
Oh, extremely. And you can just tell that a lot more love went into those games.
Yeah, like, the first one was very much an experiment.
Yeah, and when they realized, oh, we can make money off of this, let's actually put effort into it. And then they made the second one. Which brief side note, the screenshot that I had posted on the Discord was just like, they really do, like, the next time you play Legacy of Goku 2, just as you're playing through, walking through West City or wherever you're going through, just talk to random NPCs. The ones that have names generally will say some wild shit.
Yeah.
Like the one that I posted to anyone who's not on the Discord, it was this random dude in like the Triceratops village who goes on this rant about how much he loves making root beer in his bathtub.
Yep.
It's just bizarre. And there's also this old guy in Capsule Corp who old Gus is his name, and he goes on this whole spiel about how he worked with Dr. Briefs when they first started working at Capsule Corp, and then he goes on this weird side tangent about how he doesn't trust Dr. Brief's cat.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Back when games had personality.
For real.
Let's see. What do we got? Oh, cool. Crash Bandicoot Entranced.
Wow.
So the Crash games on GBA, at least the first two, were really good. They were like side scrollers. They basically played exactly like the 2D sections of like the mainline Crash games.
Mm-hmm.
They were just like strictly 2D. Very well done games with some pretty good graphics. Vicarious Visions, I believe, made them.
Mm-hmm.
They're the studio that actually made the Crash Insane trilogy on PS4, Switch, Xbox.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yeah, solid little games though. Completely bizarre plot lines because they're completely just original, like random shit. But fun game.
Yeah, I could imagine a lot of the games that came up for GBA were very similar to that. Like where they just kind of like got the freedom to just kind of make up their own thing, and it always ended up coming out really weird.
Yeah, it was always just kind of like a really weird, abstract like take.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. I know I definitely have more. It's just I don't have any of my games with me, so I'm just try to do it from memory.
Want me to grab another one while you think about it, or
no? I remember playing Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets on GBA, which I didn't play that one as much because the PS2 version was superior in every way.
weren't they like RPGs on GBA?
Not like turn-based RPGs. They were like I don't even know how to explain it. It was kind of like almost like a puzzle adventure game, but you also like had like you could cast like spells normally and stuff. But it was just I think part of it was the aesthetics of it just looked so bad that it was really hard to find your way.
Gotcha.
And I remember the game being really dark for no reason. Like the colors and stuff was very dark, so it was always hard to figure out where you were going.
Oh, especially on an original GBA where you couldn't see shit.
Yeah, the PS2 games were far superior. I played the absolute shit out of Chamber of Secrets on PS2.
Okay. I had that. I bought that recently because I had it as a kid and I wanted to remember if it was good or not. So that's a good sign.
I think it is. It's one of those ones that I did go back to fairly frequently whenever I had my PS2 plugged in. So Prisoner of Azkaban and Chamber of Secrets are both very good games.
Good to know. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Metroid Fusion.
Yeah, isn't that on the Switch online?
They just put it on there.
Yeah, I was. Oh god.
I was gonna say Fusion's a really good game. That's honestly like probably like one of the better Metroids of all time. That was like the one where like Samus like gets like her suit like hijacked by the virus, and you have to like play in that weird exoskeleton suit for most of the game, the Fusion suit.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a fun game. It's more linear than most of the Metroid games, but I feel like the way that they handled it really worked very well.
Yeah.
It's a solid one. Like, I'd highly recommend giving it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, I have it available to me, so I probably will check it out. I haven't played too many Metroid. I think, actually, come to think of it, I think the only Metroid game I ever played was the one that I think it was like the came with the DS, like the big blocky DS.
Prime Hunter's First Hunt, the demo.
Yeah. Which I had fun with it. It definitely seemed like a fun game. I just never really went beyond that. Which is bizarre because Samus was always my character in Smash Brothers going all the way back to the N64. So it's kind of weird that I never played it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they're fun games. They're definitely worth it.
Mm-hmm. So another Yu-Gi-Oh game, the Eternal Duelist Soul, I believe it was called.
I remember that one.
This one was a lot more similar to. This one doesn't really have like a story like Sacred Cards did. It was more like Dark Duel Stories, if you remember that one for the
Yeah,
the GBC.
another game with horrible rules.
Yes, but Eternal Duel of Soul actually was just straight up the game. They didn't change anything.
Yeah, I had a similar one to that. It was a worldwide edition, I think it was called.
Yeah, I think when I bought Eternal Duel of Soul, I was debating whether I was going to get that one or the one you just said.
Yeah, worldwide edition was like the same thing. You get your deck at the start of the game, and you basically just fight people randomly, and occasionally like rare hunters would show up, and you'd have to face them.
Mm-hmm.
I remember because I kicked Mokuba's ass a lot because he was the easiest person to fight.
Yeah, him and usually Tristan was another one of the easy ones.
Yeah,
but yeah, Eternal Duel of Soul was always until Duel Links came out. That was the game I played if I needed to scratch that Yu-Gi-Oh itch.
Yeah, those ones were fun too because they had the little like card code scanner that you could like just put your cards in, so you could just like make your deck unstoppable if you really wanted to.
Yeah, that was the best thing about the Yu-Gi-Oh games back then was you could use the like a little 8-digit code at the bottom of your actual paper Yu-Gi-Oh cards that you owned, and type it into the game, and then you just have that card.
Yeah, just make your actual deck in game.
The only thing that sucked was you couldn't do the same code more than once. So you could only get one copy of each card that way, but still, it was a solid way to get a base going for a deck.
Yeah, no, that was a fun. It's just like a really cool idea.
For sure.
Going into it now. Shining Soul 2. It's part of the Shining series of games. It's like an action RPG.
Okay.
They're not bad games. They're not like high art by any means. Like I prefer like the classic Shining Force games more. But Shining Soul's fine enough. Not a whole lot to say about it though.
I gotcha. Yeah, another one I remember was the GBA Mario Kart game.
Oh, Super Circuit.
Yeah.
Super Circuit was fun.
Yeah, it was solid. I mean, racing games weren't generally great on any of the Game Boys, but I mean, for just like something to mess around on, it was always a good time.
Yeah, Super Circuit was like a weird hybrid between like Mario Kart 64 and like the original Mario Kart. I remember playing the hell out of it back in the day though. Like I remember like Luigi was my main like always, and I got through all the like stages like constantly.
Yeah, ever since I don't remember if he was a character in the Mario Kart DS, but I know for a long time I pretty much exclusively only do Koopa when I do Mario Kart.
Yeah, so fun fact with Mario Kart Super Circuit, that was the first and I think only time I ever did a 4-player link cable like battle like with like the 4-way link cables that you remember like the commercial, you'd see them in the car like spread across the car.
Yeah, that never worked in the car.
No. We did that like once and it surprisingly worked, but it was slow as fuck.
I bet. I can imagine.
Yeah, Super Circuit was good though. I played a good amount of that one. So next week, Tetris Worlds.
More Tetris.
Yeah, it's Tetris. That's really all you can say about it.
Oh, jeez. Was there I'm having trouble remembering. There was Pokemon Pinball for GBA, or was that Color?
It was both.
Huh. I don't remember which one I had, because I know I had one of. I think it might have been the Game Boy Advance one, because I feel like I remember there being Hoenn Pokemon.
So the big difference was the GBA one was just a standard GBA cartridge. The Game Boy Color game had that massive like rumble tumor thing sticking out of it.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was really weird.
Yeah. Pinball was fine though. I mean, it was a pinball game.
Yeah, I mean, they're all pretty much the same.
It was kind of like that Sonic the Hedgehog pinball party game that you could get that was just pinball.
Mm-hmm.
Not much to say.
Yeah.
Not as fun as Sonic Spinball on the Genesis, but that's more of a weird platforming puzzle game.
Mm. That's a problem. Is like I always like. I feel like the life cycle of like Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, at least as we were growing up, was all like so close to each other that sometimes I get confused about what was what, especially
Yeah,
especially if I don't have the game anymore.
I get that.
So
Yeah, because honestly, those eras went by very quick.
yeah, I mean the life cycle of the GBA wasn't very long.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, its official life cycle was like 2001 to 4 when it was the Soul handheld.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was still going by like 2007 though.
Yeah, I mean they definitely took it. I mean, Game Boy Advance and PlayStation 2 kind of had that same thing going on where they were making games far past the point where it was the current system.
Yeah, they kind of like got away with it for a lot longer than they really had any right to.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see here. Oh, speaking of Sonic, we got Sonic Advance 2.
Oh, nice.
This is a really good game. Like, I still think Sonic Advance 1 and 2, in my opinion, still hold up. 3, not so much. 3, I really didn't like.
Sonic Advance was one of two games that I got with my Game Boy Advance when I first got it.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not a bad game to get with your system to start, because Advance 1 was pretty cool. It was like one of the first original Sonic games made for a non-Sega console, like for a Nintendo console in particular, which was a pretty big deal back at the time. It was basically Sonic 4 before Sonic 4.
Yeah. Well, it was good that I got at least one good game to come with my Game Boy.
Yeah.
Considering the other one was the first Legacy Goku.
Oh. I mean, but hey, at least it had a lasting impression.
It certainly did. I mean, I definitely played it a lot, so it's just, dumb kids not recognizing a bad game when they see one. I know, it's just in my mind, I must just be bad at it. I gotta practice.
Yeah. Why does this game run like crap? I must be the problem.
Yep, pretty much.
Child brains.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Sonic Advance 2 though, I give the thumbs up. It's a good game.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get that game again. The first one and the second one. I don't know how much they go for nowadays, but
yeah, it fluctuates. It's more the thing with GBA games that sucks is it's so hard to find real authentic copies because there's so many fakes flooding the market now.
Yeah, well, that's the thing though. Is like I definitely like to play Sonic Advance again, but at the same time, it's like, is there really much of a point? Because a lot of those types of Sonic games, ones that aren't like adventure games and stuff, like the straight up side scrolling classic Sonic type games, like they tend to reuse a lot of levels and stuff in other games and things like that. Like, I have Sonic Mania, I have a lot of the original Sonic games, so it's like, do I really need Advance?
I'd say Advance 1 and 2 are worth picking up because they have some unique ideas.
Fair enough.
In Advance 2, you can play as Cream the Rabbit, and she has her partner Cheese, and Cheese literally is a attack for her, where you can just like press a button and Cheese will attack enemies, and you can actually get the pun, boss.
cheese.
You can cheese bosses with Cheese. Yes. It's a very entertaining game.
That's fun.
Fun fact too, I bought this copy used, and whoever played it before me 100%ed it, so I didn't even have to bother doing it.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that.
Just had everything unlocked. I was like, sweet.
Hell yeah. Another game that I played a lot as a kid, which probably wasn't a great game, but I remember it fondly, was Nicktoons Racing.
I had the PC and PlayStation versions of this game, so I'm curious what the Game Boy Advance 1 played like.
It was a little janky. It kind of had the feeling of, like the old style movies where there's like a car chase or something, and you know that there's just like a painted background that somebody's just spinning a wheel to make it move so it looks like they're going really fast. Yeah, that's kind of the idea that you get. That's kind of like the visual of it while you're riding around in the carts and stuff, but it's basically just Mario Kart but with Nicktoon characters. It's Cat Dog, Hey Arnold, SpongeBob.
Yeah, like the PS1 version of this game, I remember was pretty notable because it was like SpongeBob just aired when this came out, so it was like the first like major appearance of SpongeBob.
Yeah, I think it was. SpongeBob, Patrick. I think Plankton was like the secret character.
Yeah, he was the Racer X character.
Yeah,
or whatever.
The secret villain. Yeah,
which was really funny at the time because he was barely even a thing yet then.
Yeah, it was like Rugrats, Angry Beavers. There's like all sorts like those.
Ren and Stimpy were in there.
Yeah, but yeah, it was just a fun, goofy game that I played back then.
A fun time capsule of that era, that's for sure.
For real.
What do we got? Ooh. Rayman 3. It doesn't play like the Rayman 3 on consoles. It's actually a side scroller.
Huh. That's bizarre.
So it's like the first Rayman.
Interesting.
It's okay. Weirdly, it follows more of the storyline from like Rayman 2 rather than 3.
It follows the storyline from the second game?
It's more based around the storyline of the second game than the third game.
Oh, okay.
It's a weird one.
Yeah, I don't know. I had a very selective experience with the Game Boy games. I just feel like if I didn't already know the property, I kind of was like meh, unless somebody specifically said you should play this game, or if I saw somebody else playing it, Because this is before you could just kind of hop onto Google and be like, "Hey, is this game good?"
Yeah, that was how it was with being a kid back in the. You had to really just kind of guess, and you'd basically you'd be 50-50. Like sometimes you get a winner, sometimes you would not, and you'd have to live with your choice for the time being. That's kind of how I ended up with GT transformations back in the day.
Yeah, me too.
When you beat it in a day and you're like, this sucks.
It's kind of bad when you have more fun playing the Dragon Ball Evolution game than you do GT transformations.
I mean, that's at least a good game, just with a really weird story. Transformations just was a mediocre beat 'em up that was over very fast.
Yeah, no kidding. Jeez. I think I might have one more off the top of my head. There's a Yu Yu Hakusho Spirit Detective.
Oh yeah, that was the fighter, right?
Yeah, it's real bad.
Real bad.
Real bad. Not a good game. I tried playing it once, didn't get past the first level. I mean, actually, no, I tried playing it a couple times, but no, it's just it's almost unplayable.
That's a bummer.
Definitely Tournament Tactics is the one you want.
Yeah. So is it worse than Taiketsu or better than Taiketsu? That's the real question.
You see, the problem is at least with Taiketsu, it's like you could just do a fight and then back out. But Spirit Detective is like an adventure game, kind of, where you're running around. Does Yusuke live in Tokyo? I don't even know.
I don't know. Good question.
Well, they're running around whatever. Where? Wait, no, it's not. It's like a. What the hell? I know they mentioned the name of the city he lives in the show. I just can't remember what it is. I don't think it is Tokyo though. But whatever town he lives in, you're just running around that, and it's like, oh, you got to go find Kuwabara, so you got to go find, run off in this direction, but you don't really know which direction you're supposed to go. You get blocked in a lot, and the controls are really janky. It's just not very visually appealing. You die really easily. It's just not worth putting time into.
No, I get you.
Which was disappointing because I really wanted to like the game when I got it, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Let's see here. We're running close. We're getting a bit tight on time. I guess I could rapid fire a few here.
All right.
Let's do a legit grab bag. See what I get. I got a couple here. Got. Oh boy. Disney Sports. Very mediocre sports game for the Game Boy Advance.
Mm.
Here's a fun one. We got the Phantasy Star Collection.
Fantasy, that's one I've heard of.
So this is a compilation of Phantasy Stars 1 through 3. Unfortunately, it doesn't have 4, which is an incredible bummer because 4 is the best one, in my opinion. But 1 and 2 are worth it. 3 is okay. Got SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom.
I might have played that one. See, that's the thing, is that game came out for like so many different consoles, so like each version was different. I have no idea which one I played.
You probably played the console one because that's the one that's famous, like as being a good game. The Game Boy Advance one is fine. It's just a side scroller that's kind of meh.
Okay.
Oh, here's a fun one: the Yu-Gi-Oh! Double Pack. I believe. Actually, let's do some research because I don't.
So I think when you look have that.
It just says double pack. I have no idea what the two games were.
I think that I could be wrong, but I think that might be Sacred Cards and that Regime of Destruction or whatever.
That's what I'm thinking too, but I want to check.
So I think I have that, or I have had it before. I might have given it to somebody.
I feel like I bought this originally, and then I later got independent versions for collector's sake.
Yeah.
I'm very curious, though.
See, I think I had gotten that. And then I tried that sequel to Sacred Cards, and I hated it. And I had a separate copy of Sacred Cards already, so I just gave it to somebody.
So you got Sacred Cards and then Regime of Destruction.
Yeah.
That's funny. All right, so that's what that is. Back when they used to do those fun double packs of stuff.
That's my Legacy of Goku. I have the double pack of that. The first
two. Then we got Crash Bandicoot Purple. This is a crossover with Spyro the Dragon, but they're like party games and they both suck.
It's a bummer.
The Crash one is better than the Spyro one, but they're both not very good. We got Mario Golf, Advanced Tour. Fun fact, this is an RPG.
Huh.
And it runs off the Golden Sun engine.
That's interesting.
Yeah, the Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance Mario Golf and tennis games are just RPGs.
Yeah, Golden Sun.
They were made by the studio Camelot, and they made like Golden Sun.
Yeah. Yeah, see, Golden Sun is one of those ones that I've heard about constantly and never actually played. I went to go start it the other day.
Oh, yeah, because they put it on a Switch.
Yeah, I went to go start it the other day just to kind of like see what the hype was about. And then like I barely got into like the first bit of text and I was like, this is gonna be a lot. I probably shouldn't start this right now.
Yeah. No, that's very understandable. All right, a few more before we wrap this up. Speaking of tactical games, I got Onimusha Tactics. It's okay. It's a tactics spin-off of the Onimusha series. Here's a winner. Lunar Legend. It is a port of Lunar 1 for GBA.
Cool.
Not the greatest port, but it's still better than nothing. I wish Lunar 2 got one, but they don't like Lunar 2, I guess.
Yeah.
Great name here. Super Mario Brothers Advance 4, Super Mario Brothers 3. Excellent port of Mario Brothers 3. Arguably probably the best way to play Mario Brothers 3.
I think that one's online as well.
It is, and I believe they gave the full e-reader. Remember the e-reader, guys? They gave the full e-reader version that had all the bonus unlockable levels that you could get through e-reader cards.
Interesting. I think my little brother plays that one a lot.
It's good. There's also Mario Advance 1, which is Mario Brothers 2. Also a great port, arguably the best way to play. Oh god, we got 2 Frogger games here. Here's Frogger's Adventure. Temple of the Frog. This is a good game. It's just another Frogger type game. And then here's Frogger's Adventure 2, The Lost Wand. This is a really good game. I highly recommend that one. They're just like Frogger games. They like you hop and bop and dodge the enemies. They're just really well done.
I didn't realize how many different variations of Frogger there was.
There's a lot. Like there is a lot of Frogger games.
That's wild.
And then this one's pretty obscure. This is Sema the Enemy. It is an RPG, but it's like a post-apocalyptic kind of like setting, kind of like at like the world at its end kind of thing.
Okay.
That's a fun one. Oh, here it is. Yu-Gi-Oh! Worldwide Edition.
Yeah, that does look familiar. I'm trying to remember. So that one didn't have a story to it. It was just like,
if it had a story, it was incredibly non-important, basically.
okay. So it was more along the lines of like Dark Duel stories or Eternal Duel of Soul.
Yeah, like it wasn't really a story so much as it was it was basically just a simulator, but it had like maybe some like minor shit in the background that you could kind of watch happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is fun. Here is an action replay for GBA.
Awesome. I think I still have. Is it? I think it is an action replay, but it was one of the ones that had the spot for GBA and for DS. It was one of the ones like towards that section of life for action replays.
That's actually probably more interesting than this one. These ones are really hard to find now. Like this was like $100.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're not common anymore.
I've had mine forever.
I mean, when you got them when they were new, they were probably like so much cheaper.
Oh yeah, extremely. And actually, it was the only way I was able to. When me and my buddies were going through like all the Pokemon games and trying to complete the Pokedexes, that was the only way I was able to do it on Gen 3.
Did you know there was also a Grand Theft Auto on Game Boy Advance?
That's right. I forgot about that.
It's a good game too. It's a it's like the original Grand Theft Autos, like they were top down kind of a style, but it's got a fun little story and it's well made. It's very much got that vibe to it.
I haven't played nearly enough Grand Theft Auto. I mean, I played a lot of San Andreas when I was a kid, but I mostly just typed in codes and fucked around.
Played with the tank.
Yeah, the tank, or I'd do the flying cars cheat, or
yep, invincibility code, and then just who's your god now mode, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. I'll never forget those one time when I was a kid, and I like totally made my mom panic about what kind of kid I was because I came home from my dad's house once with a copy of Vice City. I didn't say anything. I just put it in, and I was like, "Hey, Mom, look!" It was just like me beating up an old lady on Grand Theft Auto, and she was like, "What the fuck are you playing?" And she took the game from me.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to play them at all. Like the first Grand Theft Auto I played was actually 5 because that was like the first one I could actually get with my own money. Because my parents were very strict about that.
My mom was. I had a lot more freedom with what I could play and stuff over my dad's house.
It's funny because in hindsight, not playing Grand Theft Auto as a kid made me kind of indifferent to the series.
That's fair.
Like when I played 5, I was kind of like, it's fun, but I don't get what the hype is.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like how I feel about, to a lesser degree, how I feel about the Final Fantasy games. You know, like everybody I know grew up with them to some degree, but like I didn't play any of them until 2 years ago.
And yeah, it was kind of a you had to be there kind of thing.
I enjoyed them. I mean, when I played 7, I had a great time with that game. Like way enjoyed that. Ended up enjoying that game a lot more than I thought I was going to. But because I don't have that childhood relationship with it, like the changes and stuff they made for a remake don't bother me in the slightest. Like
that's fair. It's
just an alternate telling, and I'm totally up for that. You know, I like alternate tellings of stories that I already know. It's fun. Which I finished the base game up, by the way.
Nice. Yeah, so unfortunately we're running out of time tonight because I have to work tomorrow, which sucks, but it is what it is. Yeah. So we'll probably revisit this in the future. Maybe we'll do other handhelds or systems. Just go over some games we remembered. I might not do a grab bag next time. This just happened to be a fun thing I wanted to try.
Yeah, we might try to do some more like game series specific episodes.
Yeah, just shoot the shit.
Like usual. I apologize for my lack of energy today. I don't know what happened. I was all full of piss and vinegar until we actually started, and then all of a sudden it just hit me.
Well, we got hit by
I was.
We got hit by a silent alarm, and then we had to fix that. But yeah. Hopefully next week's episode will be a bit more higher energy because I won't have to work next weekend. But yeah, that's the downside to doing this on Fridays is we're just so beat by the end of the day.
Yeah, for real. It's still a good one, I think, though.
Yeah, it was just fun talking about some random GBA games because the GBA library is an endless mine of just like entertaining stuff.
I just wish I had more experience with different kinds of games. Like I tended to like I said before, I would focus more on like the franchises that I was already familiar with. Like that's why I ended up playing Lord of the Rings games and Pokemon games and Dragon Ball games, Yu-Gi-Oh games, like that kind of thing. I ended up missing a lot of like the specific Game Boy exclusive things like Golden Sun and all that.
Yeah, I played honestly most of my GBA games like years after the thing was discontinued, just because they were so cheap for a long time there. Now they've like everything, it's expensive as hell, but
yeah, I should have taken because there was this retro store that I used to go to a lot, fairly frequently, once every couple weeks, and they used to do like 3 GBA games for $10, and I should have utilized that a lot more. I haven't been there in a while, so I don't know what they cost now, but it's probably not that cheap anymore.
Yeah, they're all way up there now, especially the ones that are actually valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's all part of this hobby.
That's what emulation is for.
Yeah. just don't tell Nintendo.
Yeah, right.
Okay. But yeah, once again, guys, though, thanks for joining us on Geek Addicts. You can find Geek Addicts on all the major podcasting platforms right in the GNC podcast feed. You can also see video versions of this show on YouTube, usually shortly after the episode airs. I'll post. It's basically just whenever I get around to it. And then you can also follow us over on the GNC Podcast Network Discord server to find all fun things about GNC, Video Experience, Geek Addicts, talk gaming, anime, or just shoot the shit. It's a fun time. And all of our links are at linktree/thebarberwhogames. So you can find all of our stuff there. And with that, guys, we will see you all later.
See ya.